Hi, welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo.
And I'm Miss Joan Marie Musi.
And our guest, the Eggman, Paul Wirhun. I got it right?
You got it.
Hi, Paul. Welcome to
Welcome
Let Them
to the
Talk.
show.
Thank you.
We have so much in store and only 28 minutes to show it to you, so this live show is going to get on really quickly. Paul, tell us, what do you mean by the Eggman, and show us that wonderful globe. It's just a gorgeous globe you have there.
Well, thanks. This is a newest piece that I've just created where I took a political globe that you would see at a school desk and I encrusted it with eggshell, and then I painted it as a topographical globe. I call this piece New World Order. And it's, part of the ideas of like, we're going to have to shed a particular skin, like the political skin that was on here. And then we're going to have to reimagine ourselves and think about, global concerns of ecology is really what this is about. And what I'm really trying to show is just really how beautiful the Earth is really the idea.
This is so stunning, this piece. I just adore it.
Thanks.
Now, you call yourself the Eggman because your medium is eggs.
Correct.
You paint on them, with them.
Right, exactly.
Spin that globe around so we can see all the continents.
Okay.
Africa, Asia. That's
Yep.
pretty amazing. And
Thanks.
that's all done with eggshells that you've dyed?
No, the eggshell was laid down white first, and then what I'm doing is I'm using the dye as a watercolor medium, and so I'm painting the topography with a brush.
I see.
Right.
You see, and then what happens is the globe is then lacquered, which gives it this particular shine. But this is all brush painting using the dye, which is essentially fabric dye, which is the dye that's used currently for egg decorating. There's strong aniline dyes that give you these, the intense, the colors, right.
Now, you started doing eggs as a kid, right?
Right.
This is something you learned.
Right, growing up in a Ukrainian family at about maybe, I don't even remember, about age 10, I learned from my mom this traditional art form that we Ukrainians call Pysanky. It's a word that's derived from the verb to write, pisate, because the decoration that you see on these particular types of eggs are actually written with an instrument such as this. This is kind of a modern equivalent. We've got a little cat here attached to that from my kitty at home. And it's drawn and it's written with wax in a process that's now, I don't know, maybe at least 3,000 years ago. We know that it's a pre-Christian, it's a pagan religion, and pagan...
Show the item again, your tool there.
The tool, this is the...
It's not quite there, it is. Right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, this is a stylus. We call it in Ukrainian a kistka, which is from the word for bone, because perhaps the first instruments might have actually been bones that had a brass cone mounted in it. This is a more modern equivalent.
And having used this, I'd just like to say this is not an easy thing to work with.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah, the
right?
process is batik, so it's drawing with wax. So what you see here is a cake of, this is literally coming from my studio. So you see it's kind of blackened. It's blackened from the soot of the candle in the practice of doing this form of artwork. I would say, in terms of when I teach this, which I'll be doing this Friday at the show,
yeah, we have to
at a
give
show
that
we'll talk
information
about
out,
that
yeah.
information. But really, actually, this practice is a form of witchcraft, really in its simplest language, to let people know, like, the meaning inherent behind the practice. These ancient peoples believed that when you had an egg that had, we're talking, of course, now about a fertilized egg that had new life in it. Had not only the potentiality of new life, it had new life in it.
Actual life.
This object to the ancients, maybe 3,000-4,000 years ago, was a power object. And what this practice of creating this design work on this was taking the power inherent in the egg and letting you know how that power would be used. So the decorative element you see on these traditional eggs is actually a symbolic language. So for instance, this particular egg that you see here, and maybe it's getting caught up against my shirt, which is highly decorated
hold it
too.
a little bit over that way.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
This has a kind of a reindeer motif on it, or a ram. This is a powerful male symbol that's given to a male at the head of a family to represent the wish for strength as well as male virility, which equals ultimately wealth. it's stealth. It's having the ability to have the strength to make wealth.
Wow.
And so this is what this
So
symbol.
there's a message in each
There's a
of these
message,
Ukrainian
right,
eggs. And
right.
there's thousands of designs, right? I
Right.
mean, it's like a whole vocabulary.
There's a whole vocabulary. In fact,
Should I get the
yeah,
book?
get this book up. Get the bottom book.
Bottom book.
Actually, because that shows the most interesting. This is a really interesting book that came out from Canada, and the great thing about this book is that I don't know if you want to zero in,
Yeah,
Paul.
we can zoom right in there.
What you're seeing here on these pages are different designs from different regions, or the book is broken up into design elements that tell you what this design would mean. So we're looking at
Like the
something,
spirals
these particular images are floral in basis. Some of them represent like good lucks for health. The red color, for instance, represents kind of passion, for instance. This is a different style of egg work you're seeing here, where actually the wax is dropped onto the egg versus drawn on. It's dropped on with dots.
Yeah, that's more my style. Globs.
Globs. Versus these are floral elements. A lot of floral elements are recognitions of going back to the sun as an object of worship. Because again, the springtime is when, I love some of these. These are very, very simple ones.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and just very abstract.
Did the design start as simple and become more abstract over time? Sort of similar to like the Navajo blanket started out as just a very simple design, and then over the years it became more complex.
Right. I would say it's hard to know, quite honestly. Some of these design symbols are lost in terms of their meaning, because we're talking about stuff that was thousands of years old. The designs, though, as a symbolic language, have crystallized over time. So, some of these designs remained because, again, it was an oral tradition passed down generally from mother to daughter, and so it was, because it meant something beyond just the artistic element of it, it had a meaning that had to remain, and so the designs kind of crystallized, which you would call crystallized, and they always remain the same
And then they
over
repeat.
time. And they're repeated. I think nowadays this work is more done for its decorative embellishment, and so artistry has really refined it, but in its original form, it can be really crude. It doesn't really matter.
Can you show us? You have some other ones, some other eggs there. Do you want to take a few out and show them to us?
Sure. I mean, no.
And
yeah.
also, I wanted to talk about the show coming up on
Let's do
Friday,
that
because
next.
people are already fascinated, I'm
Let's
sure.
talk about the show.
Okay, so what I have done is, as an artist, I've taken the eggshell as a medium to continue working with, and over the years I've developed other media of how to work. Like, for instance, this
Right.
is
Or
one
what it
element
is.
where, for instance, I'm using the dye as a watercolor medium. So, for instance, here's another egg.
Oh, beautiful. It's a rose.
It's a rose image, and this is on a rhea shell. And this egg represents a combination of technique where the pink on the edges of the petals was actually batiked, so it was drawn with wax when this egg was originally dyed pink. And then what I'm doing is then, after that was done, I'm dyeing it red, I'm toning it with other colors. I'm also scratching, as you can
Oh,
see,
yeah, I wanna
to
talk
heighten the
about that
light.
too,
So
yeah.
these are different techniques that I've developed over the years working on eggshells. Again, this is non-traditional work.
But
One of
you've
the,
taken the traditional and really run with it.
I run with it,
Yeah.
right. And again, but it's outside the vocabulary of the traditional motif, which has upset some Ukrainians.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, I don't have a really good stead with some of the folks because of what I'm doing. It's
The way
non-traditional.
you're-